All right, hi Andre. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Vonvo.com. Today's date is March 31st, 2013, and we're here to discuss gay rights in America. I just wanted to go over two quick things before we got our discussion started. The first is that right now this conversation is being recorded, and after the recording is completed, we'll be uploading this video to the internet to our YouTube channel. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Great. And on top of that, here at Vonvo, we're all about our conversations staying both civil and valuable. We don't want there to be any personal attacks against anyone. Are you fine with that ground rule as well?
Yeah.
Great. So let's get our discussion started then. For anyone who's going to watch this video going into the future and anyone who comes into the chat room right now, would you mind just giving a quick background of yourself and why you are so passionate about this issue?
Well, I am originally from a country called Romania. I grew up under communism. I've been in the United States for almost 10 years, and it's the greatest country in the world, and I hope it stays that way. And I'm also a Christian, and that's first and foremost in my life and how I guide the decisions that I make. And I'm glad that I have the opportunity to be given this platform to present what I believe and why I believe it, and hopefully start a good discussion that's going to help you for that.
Great. So, ultimately then, just to kind of ease our way into things, would you mind kind of giving just a background or your overall analysis on the current state of this subject, where you kind of see it right now? There's been a lot of talk in the news about it. So overall, what is your take on the current status of this subject, gay rights in America?
Well, it's very puzzling to me, and here's why.
And
Because um,
Andre, quickly, could you mind just
yeah,
raising your volume or putting your microphone closer to your mouth when you speak? Because I hear you, but it's just a little low.
yeah, is that better?
Yeah, it's perfect. If you don't mind doing that a
All
little
right,
bit, thanks.
I can hold it like that for you if you'd like.
All right, great. That's better.
Right. So back to your question, it's puzzling because when you think about it, what are gay rights? If I were to ask somebody that is promoting that, what are gay rights? Can you name one? And the context of the question is that we live in America, right? We have a Bill of Rights and we have a Constitution, and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are have been drafted based on God-given unalienable rights, which are some of them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So are gay people prevented from pursuing those God-given rights in America? And if we go down that path of reasoning, and you say, well, we need gay quote unquote rights, then where does it stop? For example, can people who advocate polygamy then say, well, I'd like polygamy rights? Or people who advocate anything that, in their view, make them happy, and they say, well, I want to have a right to my happiness, and make kind of a special class of citizen or person out of that. So I don't think there is a crisis as far as gay quote unquote rights are concerned. Uh, One example I can give you, when Rush Limbaugh got married, he invited Elton John to sing at the wedding and paid him $1 million or $2 million. I mean, it's not like gay people are being persecuted or prevented from, reaching their full potential as far as things of the world are concerned. Um, I mean, from a perspective of those promoting a quote unquote right, if they really want to look at that, there's countries in the world where people who advocate this type of lifestyle, they're really um, having a hard time as far as acceptance, and even going as far as being put to death. So, in my view, why aren't proponents of the gay quote unquote rights movement try to help those people out in those countries? I mean, don't they matter to them at least?
Right. So basically, I mean, in the end, I mean, on your end, is it not that you have a problem with gay individuals, but rather it's just you're concerned about where the line is drawn, and the idea is you're not looking for anyone to be persecuted, but rather just kind of let's stick towards what we believe the Bible has to say, and can you kind of just clarify that? Is that really where you stand?
Yes, well, my view as a Christian, the Bible condemns homosexual behavior. And to take it further, the Bible condemns any behavior, sexually speaking, that is outside of God's ordained marriage, which is one man and one woman. So God condemns adultery, God condemns polygamy, God condemns fornication, which is sexual relationship between a man and a woman outside of, they're not married to each other. So all sexual activity that is not within a godly ordained marriage is condemned in the Bible. So that is how God gave us the word, gave us his stand on it. Whether we decide to follow it or not, that's a matter of individual choice, and that will have repercussions in eternity. But as far as this society is concerned, um, I just think that this is a manufactured crisis that a very small minority of folks in the gay community are pushing for different reasons. And I pulled up an article here. It was in the Chicago, let's see, where is it? In the Chicago Free Press. And there's a gentleman by the name of Paul Varnell, Varnell. He identifies himself as a homosexual activist, right? And this is what he wrote in there. He says the gay movement, whether we acknowledge it or not, it is not a civil rights movement, not even a sexual liberation movement, but a moral revolution aimed at changing people's of homosexuality. That's from his own words, not mine. And you can look it up.
Right. So, what can you give us just an overall understanding since you're passionate about the subject? I mean, recently there's been a lot of news regarding a Supreme Court decision and what's gone on with that. Can you kind of give our viewers just a sense of what the recent hype has been over in DC about a recent decision? Can you talk about that a bit?
Well, to my knowledge, yes. To my knowledge, the decision hasn't been made yet. They're having the Supreme Court is hearing the case. It has been hearing it for the past week. I'm not aware that there's been a decision made yet. I think they will make one before the summer. But the question is this even something that the Supreme Court should hear? And one of the Supreme Court judges, I think it was Kennedy, kept asking whether this is something the court should look into at all. And if you look back at the history of how it got to the Supreme Court, it was back in 2008 when the people of California had a referendum. Now, the state of California allows for referendums. Not every state allows for referendums. But in the state of California, they had a referendum and they put it on the ballot, whether they should allow gay, quote-unquote, marriage or not. And the people of California spoke, the majority of the people, and they said no. So that was a legal, completely fully legitimate process based on how our system works. Then you had after the decision of the people was given through the referendum, then you had a judge, a federal judge in California, who you would say he was biased because he identifies himself as a homosexual, who struck down the referendum. And then from there, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld it, and now it ended up at the Supreme Court. Now, the problem with this is, even for those who don't want to discuss about this from a moral standpoint, from a godly standpoint, people who may be atheists, what have you, from a strictly, purely constitutional and legal perspective, this is very dangerous because the way this is being brought upon the society is in a illegitimate way as far as our system works. I mean, the people of California spoke, and then their will was overturned. And so basically what you're having is a group of people trying to impose their view of society on the rest of society, not by utilizing the system the way it's supposed to work with the checks and the balances and so on and so forth, the way our Constitution and Bill of Rights provide for, But through, in this case, if let's say the court upholds it, right, strikes down DOMA and upholds the case brought before in favor of gay quote unquote marriage, then that's judicial tyranny. So we're moving away from our constitutional system of checks and balances, and we're moving away from a free nation to more towards a centralized tyrannical type of system, and that's very dangerous. That's not good for anybody. I don't care who you are.
So just because you kind of mentioned it and it just kind of struck my ear, can you kind of just elaborate a bit on why you see that? I mean, what makes you think that this sort of decision on this topic leads into potentially, a tyrannical sort of government? I mean, if you don't mind, just kind of elaborate on that and being a little bit clearer. Sorry.
No, it's because the way it was brought before the Supreme Court, and if you look at the history of the Supreme Court, the role of the Supreme Court, why is the Supreme Court there? Is to make sure that the laws that are passed are in accordance to our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. For example, a lot of people bring the 14th Amendment into this conversation, and they say, well, it's a 14th Amendment issue, which is not, and we can discuss that if you wish. But when the Supreme Court struck down Lavie versus Virginia, where after the 14th Amendment in Virginia, you had people you had laws on the books that clearly discriminated against people of color. And the Supreme Court struck that down. Why? Because it was already part of it was the Constitution to the 14th Amendment. So it was an existing law on the books. The court did the job that it was created to do, and made the right decision. In this case, it's not a constitutional matter. So the court has no basis. What the court should do, they should strike down this whole thing and send it back to California and allow Prop 8 to stand the way it was the people's choice now, and let the system run its course. California is the most liberal state in the nation by all accounts, right? So maybe in 10 years, 20 years down the line, the people of California are going to have another referendum, and they're going to say, well, we changed our minds. We're going to allow gay quote-unquote marriage. And if that's what the people want, then somebody doesn't like it, then you move out of the state. And that's what the 10th Amendment is for. But to have the system changed and overwrite a decision that the people made by utilizing the court, I mean, you're looking at it, if five justices say yes to this and 4 say no, you have 5 people deciding this issue for the entire country. I mean, do you think that's fair?
Right. So, I mean, I guess then, another, question which comes up would be for someone such as yourself. I mean, what would you say is the most concerning thing in your head over, allowing gay people to marry? I mean, is it more of the religious, burden that might put on people who, are devout Christians, let's say, and they're going to be really concerned about, having that take place? Or is it more of the societal thing? Is it more of, you brought up government kind of concerning you, why this is taking place when it shouldn't be a non-factor? Let the California courts sort of make this decision. Can you just tell us really what is it in your head, so that, because like we said, next time we'll hope to have, someone who's for gay rights come on and speak with you. Can you kind of just relay your message of what it is that you have against the gay marriage taking place? What is the key thing in your head, if you had to drill it down to one, that really you really would prefer not to see it happen?
Well, from as a Christian and understanding what the design for family and society is, because you see, since the beginning of time, we've had the definition of marriage with one woman and one man. This is new. So this is a development that goes against human experience. It goes against natural law and the way we understand things to work. So obviously, and as a Christian, it concerns me because I view it as something that is unhealthy for society. Now, am I going to go out there and impose that view on somebody? No, because this is not what America is. In America, you can be whatever you want to be. But
Right.
that doesn't mean you can do whatever you want to do, and you're going to impose your will on other people by utilizing judicial fiat or judicial tyranny just because you can find a way to do it. And another thing that's from a spiritual standpoint, I'm concerned because if you look at history and human experience, even if you're not a believer in the Bible, is that any society that has gone down the path of sexual immorality, so that involves all the things I mentioned in the beginning of the call, is not going to survive. It's as simple as that. Just the same way we can't survive without oxygen. And then on the other side, if you just look at it from a secular standpoint, judicial standpoint, constitutional standpoint, it is a very dangerous, slippery slope because, I mean, I heard an argument from a gentleman who was gay, and he said he wanted gay marriage, but he didn't want it to happen this way. And this is for the reasons that I'm stating, is that um, it goes against the way our system is supposed to function. So that those two things together, which are ultimately intertwined, they do worry me because we live in a great country. It can continue to be a great country, but it is up to us and how we handle things that come up to remain that way. And the other thing is about related with this issue. A lot of it is presented as, well, we want equality or we want equal protection under the law. And then there's all these terms that are being presented. Equal protection from what? It's very generic. It just paints a picture in your mind that somehow there's no equality, when in fact in America we have equality of opportunity. We don't have equality of outcome. If you have equality of outcome, that's tyranny, that's communism, like I lived under. And that's conformity. That means there's no dissent, like it's in Iran. Right? They have no human rights. They're treated like garbage. The individual is not of any value, and they're all being looked upon as sheep who can be slaughtered. And you can look at Syria too, for that matter. So this is a very dangerous slippery slope, and it may make a very few people happy, but it's going to be at the expense of the rest of society, and that's not fair. Nor is it right for them, in my opinion.
Right. No, great. Thank you for that. So, what I have a question for you. Like, what do you sort of see over the next 10 years, let's say? I don't know, 5, 10 years. Like, where do you see this topic kind of heading? What's your sort of outlook on where this subject goes from here?
It's hard to know. I mean, only God knows the future, and that's a great question. But it depends on what happens next. There was an article on the Drudge Report on the 24th of March. Gay, quote-unquote, marriage protesters take to the streets. And it says there in the second paragraph, tens of thousands opposed to French legislation allowing gay, quote-unquote, marriage protested Sunday on a route leading to the Champs-Élysées after police banned them marching on the famed Paris Avenue. So there again, you have legislative fiat by the French government overriding the will of the people. So this can be a very dangerous slippery slope because I've seen what can happen when a people is being pushed to its limit and to the brink. And it's certainly not something that is pretty nor that I'm advocating for. But who knows? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I just hope that that things. You see, the whole thing about homosexuality in society, the attitude of the majority of the people that I come in contact with, that I hear on TV or radio, is live and let live. That's what Don't Ask, Don't Tell was in the military. It was live and let live. I mean, we're not going to persecute the people that decide to engage in this type of lifestyle. But now the problem has become whether that type of lifestyle is trying to be made mainstream. Now, one of the examples here in California, you have a bill now that's on the books. They want to pass it. It's SB 323. And they want to strip the tax-exempt status from pro-family youth organizations, including the Boy Scouts. I mean, that's imposing your will and quelling down or quashing any dissent if people do not conform to your point of view. So from a Christian standpoint of view, Christians or people that affiliate with the Christian religion or other religions for that matter in this country, they've said, let live and let live. We're not going to bother with it. If you go to Gallup, to their website, and you look at all the topics that people, when they were polled, they said, what's the most important thing that concerns you in America today? And you look at them, and gay quote unquote marriage is not even on the list. And it's made up to be this huge thing that people are so concerned about that it needs to be addressed now. We can't wait anymore. It has to be done anyway. That it can be done, and it doesn't matter what the rest of the people think. It doesn't matter if we respect the uh, the constitutional checks and balances that we have in place. It just gonna have to be rammed through. So I don't know where it's gonna go. I just hope it that the society in general will take a really uh, serious look at what's been happening in this country. I mean, you can't pray in schools. Is that fair? There was a student who was reprimanded in Florida because the teacher told them to write the name of Jesus on a piece of paper and stomp on it, and the student said no, and he got reprimanded. I mean, where is the gay community saying, well, equality, equality, equality? Don't do that. So you see, is every time a Christian perspective is being promoted and being uh, ridiculized or squashed down, the other side never says, well, equality, equality, equality. You can't do that, and that's very dangerous because it's putting flames, gasoline on the fire of losing the country through these kind of decisions that are centralized rather than through the system that we have.
Right. So, Andre, one of our people inside the text chat named Victoria, she says, my understanding of believing in YHWH and Yeshua is that it is a spiritual thing. I would like to know from Andre what is his position on this.
I don't know what that is. What is the? I don't understand the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I wish I could clarify it for you because I don't know what the I don't know what the exact meaning of that is either. So I'm sorry.
I would love to be able to. Yeah.
Could you clarify that, Victoria? What the actual YHWH is that it? Right.
Yes, I just want to make sure I may have an idea. She may be referring to God's name in the Old Testament, Yahweh, Yeshua, but I just want to know if I'm understanding this right.
Yeah. Okay. So she's referring to God and Jesus.
Yes. So basically, anybody who wants to open up and the Bible and read, whether you want to read in the Old Testament or you want to read in the New Testament, in both instances, uh, sexual immorality. In other words, anybody engaging in sexual activity outside the God ordained limits of marriage is condemned in the Bible. Now, under the Israel state in the Old Testament, when they had a theocracy, that means they had no king, God was their ruler. Those sexual sins, adultery and so on, were punishable by death. That was how it was set up by God between them and God at the time. If you look in the New Testament, the same sexual sins are equally strongly condemned. Homosexuality is condemned in Romans chapter 1. I believe it's from verse 20 to 30, around there. But we don't have on this earth God as our king like the Jews had in the Old Testament. So from a perspective of an earthly approach, governments can decide to do whether they want to uphold that or not. That's up to them. And certainly, I don't believe it's right for anybody to take quote unquote the law or justice in their own hands and apply any type of action on somebody that they don't agree with just because they don't agree with them. And we can have a reasoned discussion. We can debate. We can present our points. But that's where it needs to stop, and that's what a civilized society is all about.
Right.
So yes, it is a spiritual thing. If she's asking, it's whoever does commit sexual immorality will go to hell. Now, in our society, you have different countries around the world that, even in the United States, you have states that I know of that adultery, is against the law. Is it enforced? No. So, but then again, we're not talking about final judgment here before God. We're talking about the laws of the land and how they are or not being enforced.
Right. So, do you have any? This is only our, I think, second or third discussion on gay rights in America on Vonvo. So we're just starting digging deep into it. But you know, do you have any opinion on how the media portrays this subject? And ultimately, it gets a lot of play. But do you think that forums like Vonvo can help actually, um, try and really come to some conclusions on how this issue should be handled? Because one wants to think that there's a misunderstanding taking place maybe between people such as yourself and people who are for gay marriage. I mean, ultimately, uh, give us like your sense on maybe how the media is portraying it and why it might be twisting the facts around a bit to be a bit um, of a different issue than maybe how you look at it.
Well, the media, and when you say the media, I would imagine you're referring to the mainstream media.
Right. Yes.
I don't really read that much as far as the media or the. I mean, I occasionally see on TV, but from what I can, skim through pages and everything, it's not being reported in a fair manner. It seems to be one-sided, um, and I do see a trend in this country, unfortunately, of trying to diminish, ridiculize, and even condemn Christian values. And it's sad because this country was built upon such values. And it is, Christian people or people who have a Christian upbringing or background or belief, they're very tolerant people. I mean, look in the Middle East. How do you think gays are treated in the Middle East? I mean, you do a Google search and you'll find out. And that's why I believe, and I said at the beginning or earlier in the discussion that it's a manufactured crisis, and the media is just playing the hype. Now, on Vonvo, just the fact that we can be here and it's going to be posted and people can look at it and it's open, I think that's great. It's a great opportunity. And if you may want to consider having people on that I don't really see in the media. Have people that used to be in the homosexual lifestyle and are no longer in that lifestyle, and have them give their point of view of what they think. And I pulled it up online. I found two articles. One of them is by a guy called Richard Weller, um, who was a homosexual and then came out of that lifestyle. Because you see, a lot of the uh, what people would have us believe is that you're born that way and there's no way you can get out of it. And that sounds like Europe in the in the dark period when they would say to people, where you're a peasant or you're a noble, and it doesn't matter what you do, you're born that way, and there's nothing you can do to change. And that runs contrary to one of the founding principles that America was built on, that you're born a free person, and you decide what you want to do with your life. You have free will that God gave you, and you can use the opportunities and um, the gifts and the talents that God gave you to be whatever you want to be. Don't let anybody tell you that this is the way you are and there's nothing you can do to change. And there's a lot of people that have come out of this lifestyle and have changed and have a lot to say. So I think if they're given a voice, it can only help all of us. I mean, why isn't there a debate? They want to impose this on the rest of the country. They want to define marriage for the rest of us like it's never been defined before. Marriage was created before government ever existed. So why isn't there an open debate? Why don't we have people from all sides, including the people that I mentioned that used to be in this lifestyle, say to speak their piece? Because I believe every time the people are allowed to make a decision when it comes to this, they're going to decide against it. In France, they don't want it. They didn't want it in California. So it has to be forced.
Right, and
As far as
so ultimately, I mean, just because as I said, in a little while, we have another discussion that's taking place that I have to move on into. But I guess one of the questions that just popped into my head that I wanted to hear from you is, ultimately, if something like gay marriage passed, I mean, like, is that something that people of your beliefs are going to be willing to deal with? Do you think that it can coexist in this country? Gay marriage with the current set of laws and amending whichever part of the Constitution needs to be amended to allow for it. Do you think that it can mutually coexist and you just don't want to see it happen? Or do you think that by it existing, it's going to really pose some serious threats for the country going forward?
well, look at Massachusetts. They've had gay code marriage there until since 2003 or 2004. And if you look at that state in those, less than 10 years, there's been a massive offensive by people of the, homosexual lifestyle. And I'm not talking about all of them because they have activists just like any other group has activists. And they have really started an all-out assault on, the family as, traditionally viewed and God-given, on, children. There is a effort to push the Homosexual Classroom Act in Congress. So the question is, are people that adopt this kind of lifestyle as quote-unquote tolerant as people that have a Christian background? And history shows that the answer is no. So in my personal humble opinion, these two belief systems cannot coexist, because you either have marriage between one man and one woman, or you have something else. There is no middle ground. Now, people of Christian belief, they've live and let live for quite a number of years in this country, but apparently for the other side, this is not enough. And I just hope that that people take a serious look at this from a morality standpoint, and realize that this is more than just a quote-unquote social issue. It's a existential issue as far as the nation surviving as a whole. Because, like I said, the Greeks, they were big believers in sexual pleasures, and look at what happened to that society, and so were the Romans. So these are not just talking points. This is facts and history, and people who don't listen to either are will be repeating them.
Okay, great. So, Andre, what I was going to say is, thank you so much. I mean, Victoria does ask one other quick question in the text chat. She says, why is America so against gay marriage? I've never thought of them as being very Christian. I don't know if you have a response to that, or she did have a follow-up question from before about God, where she said, why HWH laws for believers and man's laws for non-believers? Is that your response? If you want to respond to either of those two questions, I don't know if you see the text chat down there, but
Let me scroll down.
Yeah.
Why is American so against gay marriage? I have never thought of them as being very Christian. Okay, so I think what her question is she's not looking at America as a quote-unquote Christian country, rather than she's viewing them as she's viewing us, rather, Americans as, mostly immoral, so why would they be that they're be against gay marriage? But this is the impression that people outside America have, and I can say this because I lived outside America. And when I grew up under communism, that's all we were told: how bad America is, how America is the evil in the world, and how America must fail. America is, the source of all problems in the world. But that's not the truth. The truth is there has never been a country in the history of the world that has presented so much opportunity, hope, and prosperity for people all over the world. And that's why people jump the fence. I live in Arizona. They jump the fence to come over here. If it was that bad, why are they coming over here? It's because it's good. So, and the perception that she has, and that a lot of other people outside of America has, is because they don't know, because the media doesn't report it. 40% of people in this country identify themselves as conservative. You got about 30% who identify them, as somewhere in between, and only 20% who identify themselves as liberal. It's the ruling quote-unquote elite that is pushing this moral watering down of the country, and that is presenting this view of America to other people. So, it shouldn't be surprising, and you can't have both. You can't be a Christian and support gay, quote-unquote, marriage. And to her question, is the reason people are opposing it is because most people in this country, even if they're atheists, they're not going to stand for that. I mean, Elton John, he's an openly homosexual man, has a partner, and he came out at first against gay marriage. They completely went on the offensive and attacked him. I mean, his fellow homosexual friends. So basically, in that type of environment, you can't have any dissent. So I'm glad that people are expressing their beliefs, and they're showing that their whatever they believe from their Christian upbringing or influence is to show that they don't stand for that. So
Great. So here's what I was going to say, Andre. It looks like Victoria and Ansab inside of the room right now are asking you some additional questions. I have to, unfortunately, go and start a new discussion. But if you want to answer any more of their questions, which are submitted down in the text chat, perhaps they'll come on and speak with you, which would be awesome. And you can continue your
right.
discussion. But
Okay, Max.
I just wanted to thank you though for participating, and we look forward to having you back on again for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate the time and the opportunity.
All right, great. Good speaking to you. Speak to you very soon, okay? We'll communicate through email.
Thank you, Max.
All
You
right,
take
bye-bye.
care. God bless.
Bye-bye.